something random. So you can look it up. Like I download all the tax information I never need to.
Welcome to Chase Hooks Church Woodward campus. Appreciate you all coming out today. This is the Saxy City Council and Mayor Candidate Forum. We are going to go with this forum until about 8:30 tonight. We're going to try and end it right at 8:30. We do need to be out of here by 9 o'clock. So afterwards, if you want to shake hands and speak to the candidates, we do have to lock the doors at 9 o'clock. I'm Chad Ingbrock. I'm the publisher of the Saxy News. Saxy News has been covering this community through one of our sister publications since 1994. We started the Saxy News by itself in 2005. Appreciate the community support for the paper. One of our reporters is here tonight, Connor Pittman. Connor covers City Council and is very active in the community and does a great job for us. So if you ever have a lead or a story you'd like for him to consider, by all means get in touch with Connor. Appreciate the League of Women Voters of Collin County for coming out today. We have Ms. Sharon Hurst as our moderator. Janice Schieffer is going to be the question taker. And Ann Womack is the very important person. She's going to keep everybody on time. She's our timekeeper. I'd like to thank the candidates for taking time out of your schedules. I know you're all busy, and running for office certainly adds a lot to what you're trying to do on a regular basis. One of our candidates for place 5, I believe it is, Lindsay Bueller, could not make it. She had a prior engagement. I am going to be reading opening remarks and closing remarks that she has sent me. And they will cut me off as well if I go too long. If you would like to subscribe to the paper, either the print or online edition, you can also go to saxynews.com and do that online, or just give us a call at our office. So without any further ado, I will introduce and bring Sharon Hurst up. Sharon is the moderator tonight. She is with the League of Women Voters of Collin County and has done these before. She's very well versed in taking care of these candidate forums. So please give her a warm welcome.
Okay, thank you. I would like to remind everyone that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We never support or oppose any political party or candidate. So welcome to this forum for candidates for Saxy City Council. Before we begin, we're going to go over a few ground rules. First, please silence your electronics. Unauthorized videos are not allowed, and candidates may not use video for campaign purposes. The audience may submit written questions anytime, I know we have a lot of them already, using the little form provided. Just raise your hand if you need a question form or would like to submit a question during the program. Remember that questions should be short and should be directed to the office rather than to any individual. Questions may be combined or reworded, and we may not get to every question. Candidates will give opening remarks in the order in which they are listed on the ballot. Their closing remarks will be in the reverse order. They have been assigned a random speaking order for responses to questions. All candidate statements will be timed, and our timekeeper will display signs to indicate time remaining. Candidates, please stop promptly when your time is up, although if you're in mid-sentence, make sure you finish your sentence. And please do not make any references to any other candidate during your remarks. Okay, now I'll introduce the candidates for Saxy Mayor and City Council. All positions are elected at large for 3-year terms. The candidates for mayor are Teddy Kinzer and Jeff Bickerstaff. The candidates for City Council, place 5, are Lindsay Bueller and Spencer Howenstein. And the candidates for City Council, place 6, are Matt Prestonberg and Adrian Rodriguez. In situations where only one candidate for an office appears, we would like to point out that all candidates were invited and that appearance by one candidate does not imply endorsement by the League of Women Voters of Collin County or CNS Media. So we're going to begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening statements. I'll announce the name of each candidate, And we will begin with Teddy Kinzer.
Hello.
Is that good?
Is that good? Okay. Hey, Saxy, I'm Teddy Kinzer. A quick thank you out to the Saxy News League of Women Voters and Chase Oaks Church. I've been married for 33 years and have 2 children and 2 grandpuppies. I moved to Saxy in 2014. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TechNavi. I have a business degree, an MBA, and just shy if I could ever get a dissertation done for my doctorate in business management and organizational leadership. I'm actively involved and have contributed back to the community for the last 8 years, including currently serving on the EDC, planning and zoning, and also the Animal Shelter Board. I'm on the Historical Society Museum board for Saxy, and then also serve on the GISD and the Wiley ISD Foundations. I'm the current chair of the Saxy Chamber of Commerce, and I serve on a few other nonprofit boards as well. Why am I running for mayor? Saxy needs a change. I stand for term limits, transparency, and responsible management of our resources.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
Hello, everyone. If you've driven around town lately, you've seen my signs, so I am running for mayor of Saxy, and I appreciate your support. We have come a long way since the early days of Saxy in the 1900s. We now have over 27,000 residents, and we have wonderful shopping opportunities. We have a variety of dining establishments, beautiful parks, quality housing, 2 first-class school districts, Garland ISD and Wiley ISD. But the journey's not over. During my time on City Council, one of the main things I've been a part of is to lead the charge, namely to update our comprehensive plan in 2017. This has led to unprecedented retail and commercial growth. I am running for mayor to ensure that these accomplishments continue to pay dividends and allow us to keep our property tax rate low. As I like to say, let's continue to make Saxy a place to live, work, and play. I appreciate your support and your vote to become the next mayor of Saxy, and look forward to answering your questions this evening.
Thank you. And now Chad Engbrock will deliver Lindsay Bueller's opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Bueller, and I would be honored to serve as your next representative on the Saxy City Council. Unfortunately, I had a prior commitment this evening and was not able to attend this forum, but would love to have the opportunity to answer your questions. She can be reached at her Facebook page at L. Bueller, F-O-R, Saxy, or email at lbuellercos@yahoo.com. She and her family have lived in Saxy for the past 10 years, and I've had the privilege of serving our community over the past 6 years on various boards and commissions. I'm currently the chair of the Parks and Recreation Board and serve on the MDD Board. I have 15 years experience in procurement, project management, and product development in the manufacturing industry. My professional background in strategic planning, staying on budget, and time management are important skills that I will bring to this position. My main goal is to serve our community and bring our citizens and governing body closer together. I want citizens to know not only what is going on in our city, but why and how the process works. I want to continue to build on the momentum and rich history of Saxy while ensuring our growth is intentional to keep Saxy a great place to live. Thank you.
All right, next is Spencer Hallenstein.
Thank you. Spencer Howenstein. My wife and I moved to Saxy in 2001, just a few months after we got married. We raised our children here. A few years after we settled in, as a young adult, I realized that I wanted to pay back some of the benefits that I've had in my life. So I started volunteering and looked into volunteer opportunities, and I saw that the city of Saxy had boards and commissions that citizens could serve on. So I applied at the next opportunity in 2004, and since then I've served on boards and commissions up until last month. So for 17 plus years, Saxy's been a priority in my life, making a difference in the community. My wife, Debbie, was a teacher at Witt Elementary, a speech therapist at Witt Elementary for about 10 years. We have 3 kids that we've raised in Saxy. My background is an electrical engineering degree from the University of Houston. I work still in electrical engineering as a contractor out at Texas Instruments. I work for a small company that, when I first moved here, was actually located in Saxy and Wiley, which is how I ended up in this area. Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll have Matt Prestonberg.
Thanks, Sharon. Good evening. My name is Matt Prestonberg. I'm running for City Council. First off, thanks for the League of Women Voters for hosting this. It's a pretty cool event so far. Look forward to meeting or answering some of those questions here soon. I've lived in Saxy 2 different stints, from '01 to about 2011. Then I moved up to the Northeast to Buffalo, don't ask me why, and moved back in '14 and been here ever since. I love it. Married, 3 daughters, and even a female cat, so it's pretty lonely in my house. I've been part of different boards in Saxy. I started on the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee back in the early 2000s, and then recently I've been on the MDD board with Lindsay just for a short term. Graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point with a Bachelor of Science in Engineering degree. Went to Naaman Forest High School. My wife is an inaugural teacher at Saxy High School for about 8 years. So we have a pretty good footprint here in Saxy, and I look forward to talking to y'all soon. Thanks.
Thank you. And now Adrian Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having us here tonight to speak and answer some questions from you all. Pretty much, I've been a resident of Saxy since 2015. I got married in 2018 and was able to bring my lovely wife into the Saxy community to pretty much grow and experience what small town living was like. Over the last 2 years, I spent a lot of time on the road, traveling, and pretty much saw a lot of growth when I finally came back last summer and just decided that it was probably time to get involved and see this opportunity and help Saxy grow in the right direction. Just pretty much really have a background in education and teaching, but my experience professionally is in the sciences. I used to work for the FDA as an investigator, regulatory, quality, currently work as a director of quality for a pharmaceutical company, and I did spend a lot of time with the Knights of Columbus in various positions and roles of leadership, including the Grand Knight and the Faithful Navigator. Thank you.
Okay, the 1 minute goes fast, right? Okay, now we'll ask questions of the candidates, and they will have again 1 minute to respond. I will announce the candidates' names when it is their turn to speak. Okay, question number 1. Why do you want to serve on the City Council, and what qualities would you bring to this position? The first candidate to respond is Spencer Hallenstein.
Good evening. Thank you for the question. Why do I want to serve on the City Council? Well, as I said, in 2001, I started volunteering to try to make a difference in this community, and I want to continue that. I've been down in the trenches as a volunteer for 18 years almost. I've learned a lot. I've been across 3 different boards. I want to take everything I've learned and keep Saxy moving forward. I think we are a great community. We've made a lot of strides. We have a lot going for us. I want to make a difference. I want to make a positive impact. I want to take all the lessons I've learned and the assets, you asked the qualities that I bring, leadership. My engineering background is to collect all the information I can about something and then try to make the best decision for moving forward. In my 18 years, a lot of what we did, the Parks Board, the EDC Board, was figuring out what is it that the citizens want to see in the city and what can we do to help us move closer to that goal, to deliver the best that we can for the city and the citizens. So listening, being part of the community, and just driving for improvement, constant improvement for the citizens and meeting their desires.
Thank you. Next is Adrian Rodriguez.
The purpose for wanting to help serve is pretty much wanting to be a better neighbor, wanting to listen to pretty much what you all have to say. When I got back and we made the decision to stay here in Saxy, I was hearing the grievances from my neighbors and some of the things that really weren't being either focused on or appreciated, and there were some questions and concerns that were coming up. So when this spot opened up, I thought it'd just be natural for me to go ahead and step in. With the leadership experience that I've had in the past, it pretty much started with just listening and really having an understanding of what the people want. And that's really why I decided to come and participate.
Thank you. Next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, so in the early 2000s, I was part of the inaugural class of Leadership Saxy. One thing we did was we got to tour city government, county government, state government, and at that time I knew city government was where I'd like to start, my career in the government side of the house. So this is one thing that I believe it's an easy way to give back to your community by volunteering for the animal shelter and the MDD boards. Those are great things, and they allow you to provide the city with great services, but I think with the city council, it's just that next step that allows you to serve your fellow companions and citizens in the city. Things I can bring to the city council. I lead a team of about 85 at work. I run logistics. I know what teamwork's all about. I've seen, through discussions and whatnot, that teamwork is what makes this city work, right? So if I can do that in my current environment at work, I know I can help out with it here, so thank you.
Thank you. And now Jeff Bickerstaff.
I have a servant's heart, and that's the best thing about serving on city council currently. There's so many great people that live in this community, and we're a smaller community. We're not Garland, we're not Richardson. And for that, I've been here since 1999, and I've seen the city grow in ways that are just really unbelievable and great to see. And served on the park board from 2001 to 2013. Much like Mr. Prestonberg just said, at that time, the council was my next step, and I've enjoyed serving there. Bringing a lot of experience to the mayor's position, bringing our council together on certain issues, the comprehensive plan I mentioned earlier, but also too, knowing how to get things done and getting it done in a proper way, and we're supposed to be good stewards of the city's money, and that's what we've been doing, and we look forward to continuing to do that.
And now Teddy Kinzer.
Well, I think I come to this position with a lot of experience in business and in looking at teamwork, how you be effective. So I bring that with me, as well as strong leadership. I think that having a servant type of leadership approach is key, but also knowing when you have to go into situational leadership, just sometimes when you have to get things done. So I know how to switch between those as needed. Also, if you look here, since I've been in Saxy, I've really contributed a lot with nonprofits and the boards that I've been on, and I believe that I've been effective in making those better from being on those. I think also when we look at some of the challenges coming up, things have been great, but I think we're going to see some challenges coming up, and so we look at things like handling our infrastructure, and then how that ties in with our business development, really tying in with all of that.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go on to question number 2. Saxy is nearing build-out, and we will begin a transition from years of growth to a period of stability. What are your ideas on how to maintain vitality and interest in the city and keep it from growing old? And we'll start with Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, I never thought I would see the time when we were going to stop growing here in Saxy, right? In 2001, we didn't have a Kroger, right? And then slowly but surely things started being added. We had some really good opportunities as George Bush goes right by Saxy, right? It used to be 78 was the main thoroughfare, and people would look on both sides of the road and wonder what's going to happen, what's going to come, what can we do here? We have a lot of landscape near George Bush that I think is a great attraction to outside interest and to people coming through. I look at the way we grow the city is to maintain what we are. We're a veteran community, right? That we have a good, wholesome values here. I think we maintain that through strong leadership. I think we maintain that through just being the city that we are. Now, there are some businesses we can attract, but that's something that we'll need to handle at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Next to respond is Adrian Rodriguez.
So I've been thinking about this, and really what it comes down to is the residents and the activities that we have to provide for them. We need to get the engagement. I was attracted here because of the small family town, family-oriented community feel. And there was activities going on in the parks, there were some parties going on. My wife and I are known for throwing our annual 4th of July party because of the big red, white, and blue event that takes place. Everybody loves coming over. By getting the businesses to be engaged and hosting activities that are better for the residents feel more part of the community. So if you want to keep the vitality and this community feel like it still has growth to it, it's about the liveliness that everybody participates in to give something back and do it together. Not be stuck in silos or being stuck in just in your own homes or going to the city to go and enjoy. There's a lot of opportunities that Saxy has to offer if we make it available for everybody and have access for them to participate.
Okay, thank you. Next is Teddy Kinzer.
Yeah, I think as we're approaching build-out, we got a few challenges. We still have some great areas for bringing in business, and I think being able to find really quality, long-term tax generating and resilient business is going to be key there. And then as we look at what we have going on 78, I think there, what we do to work with the companies and the businesses that are there, and the big challenge is with a lot of the lease owners is like, how do we, as we bring in business and we make changes, how can we work with them to beautify that? And I know I've been taking chances now, and I just look around and it was like, wow, what could we do to make 78 look a lot nicer and inviting and get people to want to come in there? We're going to have an opportunity there with 5th Street, and I know we'll have some couple restaurants, but a lot of great business in there. But along the way, how do we make that beautiful and be able to draw that in? And that's going to help with the tax base, which then helps to keep our taxes in check.
Thank you. And now Jeff Bickerstaff.
This is the biggest challenge that I think we have going forward. We are approaching build out. For years and years and years, we were a residentially growing community. We got a lot of our revenue from single family permits. That is definitely changing. We're transitioning into a period where that will not generate a lot of revenue. Thankfully, we have things like the station going forward. Businesses like Evolve Biologics is coming in. While they're not a big property tax generator, they do have equipment that will help expand the tax base. But more importantly, redeveloping our other areas. Highway 78 has been mentioned. We just adopted the TERS number 3, the tax increment refinancing zone. That money will stay in the city, and half of it will go to the city, half will stay in that district. And that is how we financially incentivize revalorization in those areas where I have TERS 1 and TERS 2 down in 190. So those are concrete financial ways we can get redevelopment in those areas.
Okay. And now Spencer Howenstein.
Yeah, I think the key to vitality and transitioning over to the build-out phase is about the community, building the community, maintaining the community. Saxy's been such a great place for children. So many families move in because they have young children. They love the schools, they love the community. And then those people reach a certain age and they're more likely to move out. And we bring somebody new in. Usually they have kids. I think I saw at some point the average age of Woodbridge kept going down because families would raise their kids and move out and somebody even younger would move in. So vitality is about building the community. And then, as has been mentioned, 78 is really ripe for to revamp it. We've been trying for years, but there's so much open land that people just move to the open land because it's so much easier than revitalizing that existing land. So the city has been doing things to encourage redevelopment of those areas, and that'll definitely take more precedent once all of the existing open land is taken up.
All right, on to question number 3. What, if anything, would you like to change about the city's budget and tax rate? And we're going to start with Jeff Bickerstaff.
The tax rate's been fairly steady the last couple of years. It's around 70 cents per $100 in valuation. Back in 2012, 2014, it was around 77 cents. So we're doing good on the tax rate, keeping that flat and slightly lower. As far as the budget, I think we're doing a good job with that. We have, I think our departments are funded correctly. We have $5 million for the police department, $5 million for the fire department. And I think from a budget standpoint, there's not a whole lot we need to change. We could always be better, and that is something that we can look at. But I think a lot of things are going good right now, that not a lot of changes are needed.
Okay, next is Teddy Kinzer.
I think as far as our budget and the tax rate, one of the things that I'd like to take a look at, just make sure that we're looking at our aging infrastructure and making sure that, are we going to be able to continue to fix these roads, make sure that we got water flowing correctly and that we can flush. I know I lived on a street that didn't go so well here last year, but it did get fixed, that was all good. But I think being able to just kind of look at what do we have to look out on the horizon? When we get down there 5, 10 years down the road, what does that look like?
Okay, next is Adrian Rodriguez.
In reviewing the budget for this city, as Mr. Bickerstaff, as we were talking earlier, I don't really see any major changes that are necessary at this time because of the given steady rate that we were at. But I do feel that prioritization and communication is key. We need to do a better job in communicating why we are prioritizing our budget in certain areas over others and where the money is being directed. So we need to find different ways of communicating that out, spreading the word, and getting the feedback from the residents as to where we should be prioritizing.
Next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, the city tax rate, I know we're all concerned about, especially as, our home appraisals came in this week, right? I know the city doesn't have anything to do with that, right? But still, the city tax rate, I think, is pretty good. I think that we've done a fantastic job with previous administrations on keeping it where it's at. I would want to be focused on allocating a proper allocation of those funds that we have to spend at the city. Definitely want to go towards city services, like your police and firefighter. I do think parks, that was mentioned earlier, we want to see groups out here having fun, kids playing, things along those lines. We have a splash pad that's coming in. We have city parks that are coming in. Almost, it seems like annually new things are being built. I want to continue seeing that within the city of Saxon.
All right, and now Spencer Hallenstein.
Yeah, so with the budget for maybe a decade, the city has not funded road maintenance the way I would have liked to have seen, and I think a lot of citizens would agree with that. And some of that has just been exacerbated by costs rising so much faster than people had predicted. And that's not the council's fault. I mean, they rely on experts to tell them, rates should go up, prices should go up a certain rate. But still, having to go to bonds to pay for road maintenance is because the city council failed to set aside the funds that were required. So I would change the budgeting for the road. I thought that was pretty quick.
You want to complete that thought?
So, kind of lost my train of thought. It's not your fault. I'm not, give me one moment. So, the road maintenance, they could see it coming, and I would have liked to have seen them do a better job of setting aside the funds needed. And it can't be fixed overnight now. We have so many roads that are in disrepair, and some of those are a bit strategic because there are county funds coming. So it's unfortunate we have so many roads and that we're having to go for bonds to pay for things that the city council should have seen coming.
Okay, question number 4. What are your thoughts on economic development activities in Saxy? And we're going to start with Adrian Rodriguez.
Well, for economic development, I definitely am a proponent for small businesses. I believe that everyone should have an opportunity to make their own money in their own way and be able to help the community as well as they're helping themselves. For the activities to provide that opportunity is to just go about and just have a way for these businesses to sponsor activities back to the community. Okay, does that make sense? It's pretty much, we have to attract the outside to want to give back to our own community so that way everybody prospers at once. It was better in my head when I was saying it, but oh well.
Okay, next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, and so when we look at how things are laid out in the city of Saxy, and talking with a fellow city council member, I was really complaining about why do we have certain things on every corner, right? And some of it's out of the control. It's health zoned. It is what it is. We can't tell people not to be here, right? But what we can do as a city is we can support local, okay? And if businesses like as Jeff had said earlier, as he said earlier about, you know, the new build out that we had on 78 there, you know, I love Mexican food. I'm gonna support Manny's daily if I could. But the more that we support our local businesses, the more that will attract other businesses coming to our area. I think from an EDC standpoint, it's getting the right people on the EDC, you know, committees and going with a good laid out plan as we figure out what we want to do with the city.
Great. Thank you. And now Spencer Howenstein.
So this question is near and dear to my heart. If you don't know, I spent the last 8 years as the president of the Economic Development Corporation. And in that time, I learned a lot about economic development, I can tell you. You know, we try to be a good partner to the city and say, what does the city council want to see and how can we bring that dream into reality? A lot of what we do is, you know, not going for the low-hanging fruit. You know, if we wanted another Subway or McDonald's, that'd be easy to get. But we have to look for things that the citizens really want and things that are within our grasp. So we've pursued a lot of relationships with the developers and the businesses that we want to bring here, and it is a slow process. We got, the city council 20 years ago had a bad reputation for being not business friendly. And so people went to Garland, people went to Wiley, people went to Murphy. And that's changed. The city council is much more friendly to business development now. So we need to continue that and continue to build relationships. And those things are moving in now. We finally got 190 going. The EDC funded some sewer work down there to get it developable. And just keep moving forward.
Thank you. Next is Teddy Kinzer.
Well, I think as far as the ADC goes, we're doing awesome. So you know, I serve on there right now, but I think we have you know, we have some things that I think are challenges. I know that we still have some work to do in working with developers. I know I've had some conversations, and they do still voice some frustration about working with Saxy. Also, as far as small business, I think that there's more that we can mine from that and working with them, and hopefully we can help, you know, work with the city as well, because we have businesses that want to expand and they want to do things, and they do find it frustrating in working with the city and the processes. And I think it's fixable. A lot of it's communication and being, you know, very transparent and open about what's required and what needs to happen. But I look at it as a portfolio. We've got some great regional companies that we could get in. I actually, you know, have a lot of connections. I think that's my superpower is connector, and I've been able to, you know, talk to different businesses and get them thinking about coming here. So,
Thank you. And now Jeff Bickerstaff.
Well, I would share Mr. Kinzer, we are doing awesome. I think we are doing awesome with economic development. You know, everything from Evolve Biologics and Manny's, of course, I would be there too every night if I could. But there's other things that aren't quite as noticeable as you might think. You know, everybody knows where the Bank of America used to be. That was going to be another oil change place, and we have put our efforts out there to change that. As you may know, it's a solid to go now, and Dutch Brothers Coffee soon to come. And that's innovative thinking that we've had last year, and I think we'll continue to do that. I think our relationships with our developers out there are really, really good. I think we have great communication with them. And some developers want to come in and do things that don't follow the comprehensive plan or the zoning, and so, yes, those are going to be, I think they will see those as challenges. I don't think that's being difficult. I think that's just communicating a message on what we want to see as a city.
Okay, now question number 5 is going to be a lightning round, so you won't have to, Anne won't be timing you on this, but you need to make, have your answer be just one sentence. So in one sentence, what is one of your favorite things about Saxy? And we're going to start with Spencer Howenstein. One sentence.
The diversity of the people we have is amazing.
Thank you. And now Jeff Bickerstaff.
The sense of community that we have.
And Teddy Kinzer.
I think it's awesome to go hang out at the bar at Frankie's myself.
Adrian Rodriguez.
I love the fact that you can actually take a nice walk on a good evening any day of the week and feel like you're still in the countryside.
Okay, and now Matt Prestonberg.
I love Saxy. That's all I can say.
Okay, now that was easy. Now we're going to go back to the hard questions. Question number 6. Is the money being charged on our water bills for drainage being used efficiently? What would you do to improve poor drainage areas? And this goes first to Teddy Kinzer.
I think that we can do a better job about looking at that and also communicating. When I go out to the website and just try to, like as a resident, kind of answer basic questions, I know that was one where I didn't really get a straight answer looking at it. When you look at where does the water drain and go, yeah, we're collecting money to fix that, but I know there was examples of where things say that they're complete, but in walking around and talking to people, I don't know, I don't think they know that, so I think we can improve on that.
Okay, thank you. And now Jeff Bickerstaff.
I do think the money is being used wisely. We're always going to have drainage problems. That's what we have when we live in Texas. And when we have 4 inches in 1 hour, there's no drainage system that's going to solve that. We have plans in place that you can't go find. And of course, if you do have questions or concerns, you can always contact the city staff. I think they do a good job in handling that. But I do think that the way we have it set up currently with the money we collect is used efficiently and done the way it was designed to do.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Spencer Howenstein.
Yeah, for the most part, the money is being used wisely. There are a lot of areas where issues arise. We bring in developers and they move the way the water flows through the city, and it ends up taking a toll on a certain part of a neighborhood or just a few homes at the end of the block. And people need to step up, the city needs to step up and work with the developers quickly to address those, because you can't just say, okay, well, we'll get to that next year when water is flooding somebody's property. So it is being used well, but there are issues, and people need to step up quickly and be responsible for the changes that they've made to how the water flows and the negative effects those have on people.
Okay, thank you. Matt Prestonberg.
I'll say that I think there's other things we can do with the money coming in for the water issues. In my line of work, we have what they call a heat map. So when you have a cell phone issue, you can easily go in there and say, I don't have service in this location, right? The city could very easily do something like that for other issues, whether it's, hey, I have a flood in my front yard, or Saxy Road's flooded out again, or something along those lines, to really draw attention so that the city sees that these certain areas that we might not be well aware of sometimes are having issues from overflows of water. But as has been said earlier, we had a lot of build out really quickly, and when that happens, it changes the topography of the land. That forces water in places that it probably wouldn't have gone initially. So I think they're doing a good job with what they have. I think there's ways to improve upon it, and I think that's what we're always trying to look forward to.
And now Adrian Rodriguez.
This is one of those opportunities that we have to listen to the residents. We all know where the problems are, where the water is collecting, and we keep going back to the same routine of let's let the city try to figure it out. There are a lot of residents here that have different ideas on how to take care of the issues. Do we know what those ideas are? How do we get to think outside the box? We really need to talk with each other and see how we can manage it, and then propose it to the city and say, hey, can you give some of those funds that you've been using to try something different?
Okay, thank you. On to question number 7. As a citizen of Saxy, I've seen the issue of ethics become more important. If you are elected, what steps will you take to ensure more transparency within city government? And first up on this is Spencer Hallenstein.
Yeah, this issue is near and dear to my heart currently. There needs to be a lot of transparency to how things are being done. It seems that a lot of decisions are being made not in front of the voters, not openly in front of the voters. People seem to have their mind made up when they come into a meeting, and they don't have to say, the council's not obligated to say why they're doing something. They can just say, I'm going to vote for this. But it's important to understand why these decisions are being made, and it's important for people to be held accountable, and for people to act with integrity and honesty and openness. The citizens need to be fully informed about what decisions are being made and what the motivating factors are for those. and what the actual ramifications are going to be of those decisions once they go into action.
Thank you. Adrian Rodriguez, you're up next.
When it comes to the ethics, it's about the accountability and holding each other to the fire. We really had to be not just transparent, but among the council members ourselves, have to be willing to have those conversations when you see an issue and bring it up. You can't just hold it to yourself. You can't just let it slide. You let it slide once, becomes twice, and becomes just a bigger issue. So we really had to be able to step up and be able to hold each other accountable first. And then again, go to the transparency of letting the voters know if something is in the wrong. Whether it is or not, we have to bring it to the forefront to do the appropriate investigation and hopefully get it taken care of. My entire professional career has been working with ethics as a pharmacy technician, working in quality, working with the federal government. I've seen my fair share of ethics issues, and it's all about the accountability and holding people to that standard and saying, no, we're not going to let this slide.
Thank you. Next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, ethics in politics, ethics in city council, that's super important. Without that, our city's going to go with all that water that's that we talked about previously. When I graduated from West Point, we have an honor code there. Do not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do, okay? Very hard motto to follow and live by, whether in the corporate world or, on the city council. Being new to city council, if I'm elected, I will bring, that motto to the city. I don't think we have an overabundance of liars or stealers or cheaters on the committee or on the council. I think everyone's trying to do the best for the city. So my role would be just to help, enforce the standard, be the standard bearer, hold people accountable, and ensure that what happens at the council meetings it gets broadcasted out to our constituents, and we do our part.
Thank you. Jeff Bickerstaff, you are next.
Our ethics ordinance is transparent. We did make some changes about a year ago, I guess, and I've seen that, and some of the comments made about that it squashes volunteerism, and I think the ethics ordinance could be modified a little bit. We don't ever want to do that. But I think everything's done above board. When council acts on something, the law is very specific on what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. And there's really no way not to do that. If someone has an issue, they can bring it to us. It is up to us whether we decide to talk about it, but we have always been above board, and any issue that comes up is about as transparent as you can get.
Teddy Kinzer, you are next.
I think with the ethics, I guess I almost look at it as I hope I hold myself to even a higher standard than the policy that we have. I want to think that I'm not needing that to guide me on what I can do. I think that there is some opportunity, as you've heard, I think with transparency and some of the meetings, and just ensuring that do we have enough information out there about why decisions are made, because it does appear at times that wow, this decision is made and there's not much to that. So I think that opens itself up for some improvement on there. And that's, being mayor, I think I set the tone on that. That's something that would be my job as the leader. I think as well with the policy in relation to volunteering, I think it overreached a bit. I think Matt, sure, when it comes to a city commission, absolutely. But when you get outside of that, I think we've kind of squelched a really key set of people that you would want to be participating still in other organizations.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going on to question number 8. What can the city do to improve communication with residents? We're going to start with Matt Prestonberg.
Like was mentioned earlier before, we broadcast city council meetings. The agendas are online, minutes are online. It's there for the taking, right? One thing the city can do better is social media, right? It's a hard thing, right? You have to have someone fully integrated in social media and fully aware of the do's and don'ts of how to post things and whatnot. So I think social media would be the interaction that not only gets the message out, but maybe starts attracting you know, I won't say younger crowd because I'm no longer in that though, I guess. But you know, the 18 to 30-year-olds, right, who no longer go to a website for their information. They go to Twitter, they go to Facebook. I recently opened up my own Facebook site. A little out of my comfort zone, but outside, you know, on the business side or on the politics side. And I feel like it's been able to allow me to go and reach people that I might not have been able to reach previously. So.
Thank you. Next is Adrian Rodriguez.
When it comes to communication, one thing I've learned is that people don't change. They either want to know or they don't want to know. And those that don't want to know, it's not that they don't want to know, they need to be brought into their face. And so as far as communication, we need to start talking to our businesses, our restaurants, maybe the Krogers, and have different displays where it's right blatantly out there. Did you know Saxy is, and then get that interest. Let people who wouldn't naturally be on social media read the Saxy newspaper, be able to go and just read their mail correspondence, to just do a quick glance and say, whoa, what was that about Saxy? You know, really make them stop. You want it to be showstoppers. This is an age where 2 seconds, we lose focus. So you really need to get their attention. We need to start thinking of different ways to grab that attention. Just from leaving mailers at the front door for something that important, something different.
Thank you. Teddy Kinzer.
I think with communication, there's probably a lot we could talk about, but I'd say two areas that come to mind that I've been learning more as I've ran here. One is the website. I think that should be a good single source for information. And I've been, again, just looking up and asking myself questions, and I go and I look, and many times I don't find exactly what I'm looking for. So I think we have some opportunities there to improve, and there is probably information that we could better present and allow everyone to be able to go out there and answer questions. And then we may find there isn't an answer, and so then we should fix that. I think as mayor, I'll say one thing that, boy, dare I say this, as I've been walking around and meeting people and knocking on doors, boy, I think coming back to that old management by walking around, there's a lot to be had there. And I think that's been most effective. Whenever I've been able to talk to somebody one-on-one, and you can talk through the whole issue, because it's things are complicated. And so I think being able to get out there is key.
Thank you. Jeff Bickerstaff.
I think the city's done a great job with communicating with our residents. We have several ways we do that. The website's been mentioned. The city's done a good job evolving over time. There was a time where we didn't have a website and we had to communicate through the newspaper and things like that. And over time we've added a website, a Facebook page. I was one of the ones that wanted a Twitter page that's fairly recent, and so we've even added that, and Instagram. And that you got to go where the people are, and especially our younger residents. That's where they are, and some don't go to the website, but that's what we have to do, is go where they are. And we always had the old-fashioned traditional ways of mailers and things like that. I think the website's very well laid out, and while it might not be obvious, you can find everything you're looking for at the moment's notice, but it doesn't take very long to find it, I believe, on the website. I think it's very well laid out.
Okay, Spencer Howenstein.
I think the city does a pretty good job of communication. It's about making information available, but unfortunately so many people in the community, they don't invest a lot in what's going on locally. People will turn out to vote for federal elections and state elections. But when it comes to the city, just so many people, they come to Saxy, they live here, and they'll never vote for a city councilman or a mayor. They'll never see how the city council works. They'll never understand the structure. They'll be quick to complain when they have problems. So for communication, you can put as much out there as you want, but people just aren't interested in watching what's going on in the city, and that's really unfortunate. So I really appreciate everybody who's out here tonight to try to learn what's going on in the city, so thank you all for coming. I do think the city website is, it's okay. I would like to see more easy access, like if you have a question about this is the person to email. And that information's out there, but it's hard to find. You go to the Parks Department, you can find somebody's email address eventually. But that's the main thing, have a way to get your answers.
Okay, thank you. Question number 9, we're going to do another lightning round, so not timed again, just one sentence. So in one sentence, name one fun thing about you that many people might not know. One fun thing about you. And we're starting with Jeff Bickerstaff.
I like to put together model cars.
Teddy Kinzer.
I play the ukulele and I sing horribly.
Adrian Rodriguez.
I love to shoot photography wherever I go.
Matt Prestonberg.
I can't play basketball like I used to.
And Spencer Howenstein.
I love playing with my kids, but it has led to me playing so much Minecraft and Roblox that I'm really just done with the block games.
Okay, back to the hard questions. Question number 10. What should the city do with all the abandoned properties it owns? And we're going to start with Adrian Rodriguez.
Put them up for bid, let's sell them, let's get some money going over here, why not? Again, we're trying to attract more businesses, more small businesses, give them opportunities, give them, if you're a local resident, try to give maybe some discounted rates. If they're coming from the outside, jump up those prices. I mean, come on, just let's see what we can do.
Next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, we have several boards and commissions that I'm sure have a lot of ideas, whether it's, Parks and Rec, whether it's Animal Shelter, EDC. They would all like to have their little piece of the pie on some of those abandoned buildings. Some of them are eyesores, right? First off, we want to maintain them so that it doesn't bring down other aspects of the city. But eventually we do either want to sell them or list them or something on those lines. It's one of those things where maybe someone fell in hard times, but we want to be respectful for who owned it, respectful for what it means to the city of Saxy. We don't know if it was a historical building by any means. It could just be a smoke shop, but we want to make sure we do what's right. So sell it would be great. We can always use revenue for the city too.
Okay, thank you. Next is Spencer Hallenstein.
I actually tried to look into this recently to see what properties the city owned, and I didn't see a lot of abandoned properties, or I wasn't able to find the list anyway. But it's about finding the highest and best use for whatever properties we do have. So a lot of it is, I'm kind of an open market guy, a free market guy. So put them out for bid, see what people want to do with them, and see who has the best possible use and how they can contribute to the community. So a little research and free market.
Okay, Teddy Kinzer.
Yeah, I think on that, just kind of if we can look at the list and find what might be, a good use. Is there some way to either repurpose it, or maybe that is something, if you look at business, maybe that could be something that we could encourage someone to come in and take that over. So I think just looking at what that list is like and what can we do with it. I would say when I first moved here, I know the chamber office was in Parks and Rec building, and that was quite an interesting place to go. So I think, we just want to look at how we need to maybe improve or repurpose things.
Thank you. And next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
Like some other comments, I'm not aware the city has a lot of abandoned properties. Whether they're city-owned or privately owned, it's like anything else. You take an inventory of it and decide what, if any, we can do with it, and free market definitely comes into play. But as far as the number of properties or what we should do, it's just a comprehensive list and inventory, and then we decide what's the best use for it is. And if that's not the case, sell it and see what else we can get for it.
Okay, thank you. Question number 11. In what specific ways do you think the city government can better serve its citizens? Specific ways. And we'll start with Spencer Hallenstein.
That is a good question. It's about, as we've said earlier, it's about listening, right? When you listen to the citizens and hear their concerns, hear the problems they're having in their lives, and think, how can the city, is it the city's place to address those? And if so, what is the best way to address those? A lot of problems happen that are outside of the city's control. But as for particular problems that they could address better, the drainage we mentioned earlier, some people are having drainage issues. I think the city services are provided well. I think they're provided fairly and equitably. and I would like to see that continue. So I guess just listen to complaints and try to be proactive when you can, when you see the problem coming, but otherwise, be responsible, take accountability for the problems when they're presented to you, and do what you can to make them better.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
Yeah, we can always communicate better. I think the thing that we can do and look at doing in the future is, getting out in the community more. And nobody likes to come to City Hall, and but a lot of people are more comfortable in their environment, whether it's a park or some type of centralized facility. But we can do more things on a quarterly basis, whether it's the police department briefing our residents on what they're doing, the fire department, city manager, pick anybody you want. That's definitely a big way we can be better about getting the message out, is going out to them and not making them always come to us.
And now Teddy Kinzer.
Yeah, I think, again, like I mentioned before, I think that old management by walking around, I think that's very effective, especially in this, we have a smaller area, smaller town. And I know in just talking to people now, it's amazing. There's some really great ideas out there. I took a lot of notes, and I almost wondered sometimes, why don't you should run for council or for mayor. So I definitely think getting out and listening and really, taking the time to just kind of let people unpack things and have the conversation. And then from there, just kind of, how do we figure out how you can aggregate that? And I'm sure we'll find areas that then can equate to what can be specifically done, whether that's communicating better, giving them information, or maybe there is actually a problem that needs some money assigned to it. So I think just getting out and finding how that can happen. Again, I know it takes a lot of time, and it can it can be somewhat painful, but I've actually found a lot of really great ideas in doing that.
Thank you. Adrian Rodriguez, you're next.
Be engaged. By being engaged, I mean, whenever we are present as a city council member and we're at an event or we're at some kind of festivity and we start speaking, we not just listen, we have to be engaged with that individual we're talking to. We have to make them feel that we actually care about what they're saying back. And that's one thing that I've noticed when talking to certain individuals, is that their attention is half there, sometimes there, or not all there. So it just depends. And so we really want to be different. We really have to be engaged in that moment with whoever we are. Open up some question and answer opportunities, go out to the people, approach them, see what's going on and see what is it that's on their mind and what's affecting. We all live busy lives, but in that moment, there is no one else except you and the person you're speaking with.
Thank you. Matt Prestonberg.
In what specific ways, I think the question was, can the city government serve its citizens? There's some no doubters there, right? There's police department, fire department, city services, roads, parks, things along those lines, right? Those are the no doubters where when we do our budget, we have to meet the need of the people, right? If you don't have safety, you don't have anything else, okay? So we want to make sure we supply those budgets appropriately and continue to do so. They've done a fantastic job. Our police department, fire departments are one of a kind. It's awesome. But what I'll say is that we have a lot of things within the city that we do well. We do city events well, whether it's a father-daughter dance that we did just a few months ago, whether it's the parades that we do for 4th of July or Christmas and whatnot. There's things that our city does fantastically, and that meets the needs of the people. The people want to be safe, they want to have fun, and they want convenience, and they want to feel like they're in a good community. And I think that's what we're doing right now, and we'll continue doing so.
Thank you. And now we're on to question number 12. Do you believe members of the City Council should be term limited? If not, why not? Or if so, how many terms should be permitted? And this first goes to Teddy Kinzer.
Well, that was a setup. I actually agree with term limits. I think it's something that it's time for in Saxy, and I see that from a couple of views. One is, I think, just keeping a constant inflow of some fresh ideas. I know that there are good people that pay attention and would serve. So I think having the term limits will kind of allow that to happen. And again, like I say, I think by knowing that, okay, I can run and I have a good chance at it, because incumbents, as we look at a lot of the data, I mean, if you're an incumbent, you've got a 90% chance of making it if you keep running. And so, I think in looking at that, is there a way to kind of mix things up in a good way? And I know I've heard, well, is there enough good people? And I think there are. I mean, again, knocking on doors, and geez, I've got pages of ideas that I hear from folks. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. Jeff Bickerstaff, you're next.
No, I'm not in favor of term limits. Every time we have an election, we have the ability to term limit someone, and whether you want to keep them in office or keep them out of office. So that's how I feel like term limits are already inherently in our system. The other reason I'm against term limits is because I don't ever want to stifle volunteerism. We've heard volunteerism before, how sometimes it's been stifled, but everybody that serves on city council is a volunteer. We don't get paid. And so if you want to volunteer in that particular role, you should be able to do that with no limitations at all.
Thank you. Next is Spencer Howenstein.
Yes, I do believe term limits would be a beneficial thing for the city to go back to. That's my understanding. There used to be term limits, and then they were taken away. I think being on council for too long, or in any political position, leads to a bit of a staleness, perhaps a sense of entitlement in some people, and losing focus on the citizens and the community you're trying to serve. I think when some people stay in the same spot and with the same people beside them, then it becomes a little, a cluster, an echo chamber. And they come to the same conclusions, they do the same thing over and over. I do want to see more fresh voices on the council. This election is really important because we have 3 seats open. That's almost half of the council that the city can refresh. But I would like to see that happen more. I think when people see an incumbent, they don't want to challenge him. So you could have 5 people who are interested in running for council, but they see an incumbent and they don't want to run. I would like to see more openness, more open seats for those people who are interested in running to pursue.
Thank you. Matt Prestonberg.
Well, the good thing in our race, the incumbent's not going to win. So we're both new. So, but I will say this. This question was brought to me a couple weeks ago, and I really had a long chance to think about it. I will say that there has to be a fine line, right? If you want term limits, which I do think is a good idea in the long run, it has to be a fine balance, right? You need continuity with the council. You can't have, every 2 term limits and out of here because you're trying to, learn the process, do the process, and then be an expert at the process, right? So I think there's a fine line between getting continuity and getting fresh voices on the council. So I'm in agreement with it as long as it's enough time to do your work and your what you're voted in to do. But after that, if it's too short, then I would not be in favor of it. Sorry for sitting on the fence there.
And next is Adrian Rodriguez.
Simply put, yes, I do agree with the term limits, but it's not because of the usual pros and cons that you can imagine. The reason that I have particularly taken an interest in term limits is because really the volunteerism should start before you get elected. Okay, take it from me. This is the first time that I'm going to be running. However, I've always noticed what was going on with the city. I just never stepped forward. We need to start encouraging our residents to take part in the city activities and get to know what goes on with those specific positions in the council, with the mayor, depending what those are. And so when they get there, they don't have to spend 2-3 years or their first term trying to get used to what has to be done. Some of the education. You need fresh ideas. You need to have that turnover, whether it's 2 term limits or 3 term limits. That's going to be dependent on the residents and what's going on. But term limits should be necessary to prevent that stility and just that kind of entitlement feeling that usually happens in government.
Thank you. Okay, on to question number 13. How should the city fund improvements to Blackburn Ingram Road, and in what time frame? And the first candidate is Spencer Hallenstein.
Well, this goes back to something I mentioned earlier about the budget, that there should have been planning for this for 8-10 years about what they were going to do. It's a thoroughfare, handles a lot of traffic, a lot more than it was built for originally when Saxy was so much smaller. But now so many people take it on their daily commute, on their way to Walmart, on their way to the Walmart neighborhood market. It needs to be improved very quickly. It's dangerous pulling out of those neighborhoods because the 2-lane road and all the traffic with no signals, it's just a constant stream of traffic in rush hour. So how they should have funded it was with proper planning years ago. I'm not in favor of going to bonds. I think the city council needs to find the money to fix the roads as they should have. But at this point, it might be bonds to get it done in the timeline it needs to be done.
Thank you. Adrian Rodriguez, you are next.
In dealing with this specific area, we need to probably think outside the box and incentivize more of the donations coming from the local businesses and giving them back something to want to help to donate. What I mean by that is that we can't just depend on the funds. The funds obviously weren't there. The prioritization wasn't there because we didn't know the tremendous growth that was going to be taking place. We need it to happen. But as a community, we need to acknowledge, and this is where communication comes in very strongly, that this is a very, very huge issue. This has to be prioritized. We must take action now. What is it that we can do for you so you can help us to take care of this issue and get the issue taken care of?
Thank you. Next is Matt Prestonberg.
I would assume that Blackburn, I don't travel as much as what I would Miles, right? Miles and Blackburn are about equal or they're over-trafficked, overutilized, and in poor condition. What I would say is conduct a study of, I know we don't like to hear that, but conduct a study of what needs to be done, right? Is it just a quick blacktop covering, or is it more foundational issues that we need to do? Once we figure out what we need to do, how much is it going to cost? Once we figure out how much it costs, I do believe going to the voters with an appropriate bond package would be suitable. Not one of these overarching things like we've had in some school districts and stuff, where we're buying things that we don't necessarily need. It's more of a, this is a targeted, this is what it's cost, this is what we want to spend it on, and this is the time frame we'll do it in. Inform the constituents, let them know why we're doing it, how much it costs. I bet we get the votes to improve it.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
I think we need to take the same approach we took with Merritt Road. Both thoroughfares are regional thoroughfares in Merritt Road. If you don't know, and most of you probably do, is that's scheduled for reconstruction. That's a $27 million project, and I don't think anybody would be comfortable having all of our residents pay for that themselves. The staff did a good job in partnering with other entities, Dallas County, Collin County, TxDOT, the COG, to get 3/4 of that project funded by them, and only 1/4 by us. That's the same approach we can take with Blackburn. It's a regional thoroughfare. Collin County has a vested interest in seeing that done, obviously as our residents do. So that's the best way I feel we can approach Blackburn, to do the same thing we do with Merritt.
And next is Teddy Kinzer.
Well, I think this falls under what I categorize as like aging infrastructure. What is and was the plan to be able to fix and maintain that? I'm going to put it in the same bucket of Merritt, because I know when I moved here, I heard about how terrible it was with Merritt, and and then I quickly realized, oh my God, don't come that way, and then try to make a left turn. So, it was like that eight years plus ago. And so I want to make sure that, what does that plan look like? Where are all these roads? And that's one thing, when I went out to the website, if you go out there, and I hope I'm not missing something, but I saw like two main projects. There's Merritt, and then there's Saxy Road. But there's all these other roads that supposedly we have PACER scores for, and there is some form of prioritization. But where is that? How do I see that? And then, are we able to make the right decisions as we look at our budgeting process and communicate that to the residents so everybody knows what's going on?
Okay, thank you. We have a few questions left. Question number 14. If Saxy had a grant for $2 million, what should we do with it? And that goes first to Matt Prestonberg.
That's interesting. 2 million doesn't buy you what it used to, especially with inflation, what it is right now. You could fill 3 potholes on merit, or we could do something broader in scope. I would more than likely put it towards parks and services. That's usually your cheapest bang for your buck, right? You know, playground equipment is not super pricey, level in a field is not super pricey, and it's quick, right? I think, you know, as mentioned earlier, we have a lot of young kids in this community. We've got Armstrong Elementary, where my daughter goes, just down the street. We've got tons of kids here that like to play on this. And I know we have a lot of those things in the works right now, but if I had $2 million, that's probably what I'd do to get the quickest bang for our buck.
Thank you. Next is Adrian Rodriguez.
$2 million. If we were to receive $2 million, I would put it towards safety in our small community. And what I mean by that is lighting. We could use a lot more lighting, a lot more safety signs, and just a lot more precautionary things around our neighborhoods, just to protect the children that are running around, that are trying to have fun, trying to drive in the middle of the night. There's still a lot of areas that are very, very dark. And one thing that I know, with just driving with my wife around, is that I would like to have more lighting in certain areas. So that's something that I would put the money towards first.
Thank you. Next is Teddy Kinzer.
It could be a split decision. I mean, 2 million, that could get us a couple of miles of road somewhere. I think we'd want to look at that, see if that made sense. Or from the 78 beautification side, I could also see what if we were to get things figured out with the railroad and put in a trail that goes along 78 as far as that we could to help beautify and improve that.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
Did you miss a zero? Was it 20 million?
I think it just said 2. I know that's not very much.
Okay, I'm just checking. That's a great question. I would put it toward our fire department. And the reason I say that is because while $2 million will not get you what it used to, that is for sure, we are so close to getting a protection class 1 for the city. And for those of y'all who don't know about that, when I first moved here, we were at 3 or 4 or something like that. And so that affects your insurance rates, all of our safety ratings and fire protection, things like that. So I think that might be the final push to get us to protection class 1. And that gives us so many other opportunities to expand with the state, possibly state funding with our fire department. So $2 million is not a lot, but I'm going to top off the fire department and get us to protection class 1.
Okay, thank you. Next is Spencer Howenstein.
Yeah, like everybody else has said, 2 million doesn't buy what it used to. I'd be tempted to just give it back to the taxpayers, lower the tax rate by $2 million. But I think maybe a better use would be to leverage that. 78 needs a lot of beautification and revitalization, which we've been trying for years. We've made some minor progress. But like a matching program, if we said to business owners, if you spend, for every dollar you spend in revitalizing your property, we'll match that dollar. Something to try to leverage that dollar and get more impact from the 2 million.
Okay, thank you. Question number 15. What do you believe are the primary issues and areas of concern that the city government should be focused on for the next 3 years? And we're going to start with Jeff Bickerstaff.
Well, I'll go back to build out. Build out is our #1 concern. If we don't have a good plan, which we already do with the comprehensive plan, the 2016 strategic plan, we have a plan for that. But if we don't follow through with those plans, implement those plans, then it will adversely affect our property tax rate. And we obviously don't want that. We have to stay on plan. We have to keep our economic development plans going, finish out the station, ease the burden of the tax rate on our residents. But more importantly, bring in destination users to the city to where not only are the people that live here paying, if you will, to go to these facilities, but to bring people that don't even live here to spend money in our city. That helps all of us. And so that's what we need. That's the most important thing we need to keep doing between now and build out.
Thank you. Next is Teddy Kinzer.
I think that looking at the state of our infrastructure, aging infrastructure, really getting our arms around that, and that's pretty all-inclusive in my definition of it, including the roads, the sewer, drainage. We look really great as far as 190, and we have the station up there and some other development. That's fine, and PMB is doing a great job. And I know Taylor doesn't even want us up there, so we're going to let him do what he does best as far as bringing in business up there. But I think looking at all the other areas, just ensuring that we've got our arms around that, and that could even mean a little pause there to make sure do we have this covered from an infrastructure standpoint? Because I see that we could get ourselves into a very precarious position here in the next 5 to 10 years if we don't do that.
Thank you. Next up is Adrian Rodriguez.
As has been mentioned already, I mean, the infrastructure is definitely something that we need to be concerned with just because of our explosive economic growth. While it's a great thing that we are doing what we can to build on the economics of it, we have to realize that we are landlocked. And so we have to think ahead and realize that in order for people to be able to enjoy a lot of the businesses that are coming in, how are they going to get there and get out safely and comfortably? We want to make sure this is still feel like a small town environment, but we need to grow correctly in the right direction. And so the infrastructure is definitely important, but also making sure that the path to economic growth is being led in the right way.
Thank you. Next is Matt Prestonberg.
Yeah, we, in the next 3 years, I mean, it's really hard to forecast more than just 6 months right now. There's a lot of things going on, not just globally, but United States wide, that could affect our city, right? We have the global rising inflation rates. So that means, do we focus on spending money on projects that might cost a lot right now, but if we did spend on it for a year, it would be a lot cheaper. But right now, I think focusing on roads are key. Focusing on the station is key. And just focusing on what we do best, right? And that is a welcoming atmosphere to those who live here, those who come here to visit, whether it's Fall Fest or some of the other big events that we have. But I think it's mainly focusing on what we already do, what we do well.
Thank you. And next is Spencer Howenstein.
I agree with. Is this on? Sorry. I agree with most of what's already been said. The transition to sustainability once we're at build out is going to be really important, especially finances. So much has happened with inflation and home prices in the last few months even, that the plans for the future the future is probably going to be a lot different than was already planned for. But also we can't get to that transition and still 3 years from now have the candidates up here talking about how are we going to pay for Merritt Road and how we're going to get Ingram repaired. We need to get the infrastructure fixed. People are driving every day on these roads and they're just not safe. So that's the priority. I think the biggest thing is getting the infrastructure fixed, but also planning for future infrastructure and how we're going to maintain the city's budget once we get completely to build out.
Thank you. And now we have come to our final question. This is another lightning round, so you don't have to worry about time. And you don't get one sentence, you just get one word. What one word would you use to describe yourself? One word. And we're going to start with Adrian Rodriguez. Oh, sorry. Yep, no, you're right. You're right. Adrian, you're first.
Optimistic.
All right, thank you. Matt Prestonberg.
Honest.
Thank you. Spencer Howenstein.
Servant.
Thank you. Teddy Kinzer.
Fair.
And thank you. Jeff Bickerstaff.
Loving.
Right. That was easy, right? Okay, we are now at closing remarks. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute for closing remarks. And we will start with Adrian Rodriguez.
Once again, thank you for having us up here and taking our, providing us with your questions and answers. I'm just a resident of Saxy, like you all. I love it here. I want to stay here. I want to hopefully have a family soon so I can raise here. But I also want to succeed and become prosperous at the right rate, at the right time. We can't change many things. Everybody can complain about taxes, we can complain about the budgets, the restraints. Those are all things that, go up and down. But really what it comes down to is the participation, involvement of us, the neighbors. We need to be neighborly. We need to get more involved. We need to bring more people. I'm not about big government, as you can see by my answers. I do feel that if we give more responsibility to the residents, just be straight and communicate what we need, they're willing to give us alternatives that we probably can't think of up here at the console.
Thank you. Next is Matt Prestonberg.
First off, thanks Sharon for all those questions. You pronounced my name right 16 times, so I'm proud of that.
Success.
I'll say this, listening to your questions, one thing, y'all are all asking on how are we going to get to the future? How are we going to do it ethically? How are we going to do it within a fair budget? How are we going to improve our way of life, right? My goal is, if I'm elected as a city council member, is to do those things ethically and bring us into, the 2020s later on, and make sure that we do so that in a way that y'all are proud, right? That y'all see us either on TV, when we're watching this thing on the Monday nights on the government channel, or you read it in the paper or online via the Twitter that has been created. I want y'all to be proud of what we do, and I want you to be proud of the city that you drive to and from every day.
Thank you. And next is Spencer Hallenstein.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm so thankful everybody's here, trying to be involved and informed. My 18 years that I've spent servicing this community, I think show that I care, that I love this community. Most people that I know in this community have no idea that I'm a servant. I come, I do my service, and I go home. It's not about me. If I was planning to run for council, I would have been much more vocal in what I was doing over the years. I would really appreciate your support. I will do everything I can to make this government run by the people, for the people, of the people. Open, honest, transparent, and please come out and vote. And talk to your neighbors, please.
Thank you. And Chad will give Lindsay Bueller's response.
It is important that we make strong decisions today to guide the future of our city, including infrastructure, development, and revitalizing aging roadways. Continuing to plan for future road repairs and fostering relationships with regional partners will be vital to keeping up with growth. I believe that bringing the right kind of business is key to quality of life and will help alleviate the tax burden on our homeowners. We want neighboring cities to spend their money in Saxy and not just use our roads as pass-through to get where they are going. Saxy should be proactive, not reactive to these major projects. This is our home, and I want to help our city prosper, grow, and continue to be an amazing place to live and raise a family. With leadership focused on our residents, we can continue to shape our future while maintaining the charm we all know and love about Saxy. I will serve our community with integrity and will always work to find the answers to questions that I am not familiar with. Serving in Saxy has brought me such joy and the privilege of meeting so many wonderful people for our community. I love our city and will be honored to continue that service as your next City Council representative.
Thank you. And next is Jeff Bickerstaff.
Hey, great questions tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's great to participate in a candidate forum like this. I also want to say thank you to everyone who's taken time to talk to me out on the campaign trail about what kind of community you want Saxy to be, continue to be, and where we can do better. I sincerely appreciate all the love and support I've gotten while I'm out there, and I emphasize our community as opposed to our cities because that's what we are. We are a community, and we're not just a city and its lines on a piece of paper. It's always encouraging to hear that we're going in the right direction, and as mayor, I want to continue to make sure that we continue to do that, the right direction, and build upon our successes. I sincerely appreciate everyone's support.
Thank you. And next is Teddy Kinzer.
Well, again, thank you to the League of Women Voters, Chase Oaks, and the Saxy News for allowing this forum and managing that, but especially for all of you to be here. It's great that you were able, that you wanted to take a couple hours out of your week and come and listen to us answer a bunch of questions. So thank you for that. I believe that I give Saxy a fresh, objective choice. It's not that I'm not knowledgeable and I don't know what I'm doing. I do come with a lot of experience with the various groups I've talked about, and I think that the mayor position is not about city planning. It's about leadership. And again, I feel that I come with a lot of the attributes that you would want in a leader, including having that servant type of attitude, but also knowing how to get people engaged and be able to listen. And really listen. And I think, when if you look at that, that's really important, and that's what I am hearing here. So I think that, I have a lot to come to the table with being a business owner, and I am Saxy's choice for a better tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This concludes our session for Saxy City Council. Thank you to all the candidates for being here and answering questions. Local elections have a big impact on residents in the community. We hope this forum will help everyone decide how to vote on Election Day, May 7th, or during early voting from April 25th through May 3rd. For additional information about these candidates, check the League of Women Voters Guides at vote411.org. Thank you to everyone for being an informed voter.
Let's give them all a round of applause.
Thanks, Sharon, too. If y'all could give her a round of applause. I think she did a great job. Thank you, Chase Oaks, Todd, Jonathan, thanks for running the show today. The sound was great. I can't imagine doing it without microphones. And Todd, thank you so much for opening up the church for us. Gentlemen, good luck in your candidate races. Early voting starts this coming week. And again, to echo some of what has been said, thank you all for coming out and taking a proactive approach in your city as voters in the upcoming election. That is very, very important. As a newspaper publisher, we see voting across this side of the county, and apathy is a word we use a lot. People come to federal elections more than any others, but you make a difference at the local level more than you know, and exercising your right to vote is very, very key. So tell your friends and neighbors that are registered to vote to get as much information about the candidates and show up either in early voting or election day. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see what the results turn out in 2 weeks.